In the last tutorial I showed you how to make this photograph from the cube, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this photograph bounce towards the camera. So the first thing I want to do is merge these viewports. I'm going to right click, hit join area, and I can go either way, but I'm going to go to the left. Now I'm going to click 1 for the front view, 5 to put it in, get rid of the perspective view, move image up so that the bottom is in line with this red line, which is the x-axis, and then I am going to turn the tool palette on with a T and click origin to 3D cursor. Next, I am going to take this photograph and I am going to give it a good name. It says cube right now. Let's call that photograph. Spelled it wrong. Try spelling it right. Better. Now I am going to add a floor. We're going to add with a Shift A plane and scale that times 20. I'm going to give it a name, floor, spelled floor wrong again, and I am going to give it a new material, a shiny black floor, which is going to be a mixed shader, which is a combination of two materials, one material being glossy, which is like a mirror, and a diffuse, which is a color. I'm going to give it a really dark gray, and I am going to change the factor to 0.8. 0.8 means it's going to be mostly diffuse and a little bit glossy. So that's my floor. What does that look like from the camera? I hit 0, and you can see because I moved the image up, it's kind of weird here. So if I click on camera over in my tree, I can come to the properties. I'm going to make the X rotation 90, the Y rotation 0, the Z rotation 0, and that should get me square onto the picture. Of course, I can't see it because it's too close to the camera, so I'll move it away, and 0, and 0, oops, too high, 1, right about there. So that's a good spot. I'll hit F12 to see what our render looks like. Okay, that's what our render looks like. You can see a little reflection down here. You can see the gray floor, but this backdrop is way too bright. So I click the little world icon up here, hit use nodes, and change the color to black. The other thing I want to do is just focus on the picture here. So if I go to 3D view, I'm on camera, I can go my camera properties, focus on the photograph, and we'll make this 0.2. Now when I render it, I see the photograph again, still in focus. Our backdrop is now black, and it's kind of seamless between our dark shiny floor and our background. That is excellent, exactly what I wanted. I'm going to go to my scene now. I am going to change the dimensions to 720 by 486. I'm going to change, I'll leave the output the same, but I will give it a name here, bounce photo. I'll just have to look for it in this temp folder later. I'll make it an MPEG and change the encoding to MPEG-4. Good. Don't have any audio to worry about. I'm going to change my sampling. This will get rid of some of the noise by going up to 25. And in my light paths, I want to get rid of caustics and add a little bit of blur so that that'll help to get rid of noise. I also want to add some motion blur and make that 0.125. Now the thing I haven't done is I haven't added the motion. So let's go back to 3D view. I'm going to pick the image. I am going to change the total number of frames to 120, and I am going to turn on keyframing here. So we're going to have the image selected here, the photograph. I'm going to pick the little box up here. I'm going to come to location and hit I, and I for rotation. Those put keyframes in for location and rotation at frame 1. I'm going to do the same thing at 60, frame 60. I hit I and I go to frame 80, I and then frame, let's put it at 95. These are my keyframes, which I haven't done anything with yet. I'll go back to 1, and I want to move the photograph up in the air and backwards a little bit like this. So it looks, the idea is the photo is going to bounce forward towards the camera. So I'm going to start with the photo out of sight like that. So at frame 1, that's where the picture is. At frame 60, we're now at 60, the picture's here, and it's going to stay there till frame 80, and then at frame 80, it is going to fall over. So at frame 95, I want to change the X rotation to 95. Now rotate it about the origin here, and if you remember correctly, I moved the origin down to the bottom. That's why, so that when I rotated this, it would move forward. Go back to frame 1, I can hit play, and you can see it move from the initial location to where we had it defined at frame 60. It's going to hold there for a second, and then it's going to flip forward. That's okay, but we can make it a lot more interesting by going to our graph editor. If we select everything, we have 3 curves in here. We have a blue one, a green one, and a red one. The red one is the X rotation, the green one is the Y location, and the blue one is the Z location. The Z location, we want to change that from this smooth curve here. I'll hit N, bring up the panel to a bounce. We want to change this green one, which is the Y location, from the smooth curve to a quadratic that is an ease out. And we want to change this red one, which is right here. Nope, wrong one. Turn these others off. Just the red one. Change that to bounce as well. Now when I go back to the 3D view, I go back to the first frame. I can now play it, and the image comes forward with a bounce. At frame 60 it stops, at frame 80 it falls forward and bounces, and it goes to 120. So now when I make my animation, I come to my scene, scroll to the top, I'm going to hit animation, and it's going to make a 120 frame film. It's going to put it in the temp directory, it's going to call it bounce photo, and it's going to be an MPEG. Just hit animation and you'll see it go. Now my computer's kind of slow, has a really bad graphics card. This is going to take a while, so I will put it on pause, put the recording on pause, and we'll look at the video when I get back. The animation is done, and we can go to our temp file, find our MP4 file, and in my computer I can play the MP4 with QuickTime, or I can put it back into Blender and put it with other animations. Well, that's it, and I'll be showing you how to have multiple bouncing pictures in the next tutorial.